Well, hey guys, we're in Bluff Springs Cemetery today in Kemper County, Mississippi, watching the Jets do flyovers. But really, we're here to learn about and visit the grave of Lawrence Rainey. Lawrence Rainey was the Mississippi sheriff who was intimately involved in the murders and investigation of the three civil rights workers who were killed during Freedom Summer in and around Philadelphia, Mississippi. Rainey was born on March 2nd, 1923. He grew up in Neshoba and Kemper County, Mississippi. He dropped out of school in the 8th grade, which was really not that unusual for somebody from his time period. His dad was a farmer, and they were trying to make a living sharecropping during the Great Depression. Eventually, he became a mechanic before starting his career in law enforcement. He became a police officer in Philadelphia, Mississippi. He was elected sheriff in 1963, partly because he told folks that he was the man who can cope with situations that might arise. But before he was sheriff on October 30th, 1959, Rainey pulled over a man named Luther Jackson. Mr. Jackson had come to town to claim a murdered relative's body. Jackson was forcibly dragged out of his car and out of sight of his companion. After a few seconds, she heard 2 gunshots and heard Rainey say, I guess on his radio, "Come on down here, I think I've killed an N-word." Jackson had been killed by a shot in the heart and a shot in the stomach. 3 policemen, including the chief, arrived on the scene, and the companion began saying Jackson had been killed over nothing. She was beaten by the officers and fined for disorderly conduct. Rainey claimed that Jackson had resisted arrest and had in fact choked him, so he pleaded self-defense, and the shooting was ruled a justifiable homicide. Fast forward to June 21st, 1964, and Rainey is sheriff. 3 civil rights workers, Cheney, Goodman, and Schwerner, arrived in Longdale to inspect a burned-out church in Neshoba County. If you don't know that story, watch our video on the Freedom Summer murders. On the day of the murders, Rainey was visiting his wife at the hospital in Meridian. He left the hospital around 6 and had supper with some relatives. He visited with his stepmother in Philadelphia and then went by his office to pick up some clothing. At the trial, it was alleged, but it was never proven, that he had learned of the murder early the following morning and he had deliberately worked to cover it up. On July 18, 1964, Rainey unsuccessfully sued NBC, the Lamar Life Broadcasting Company, Southern Television Corporation, and Buford Wayne Posey for $1 million for slander due to an interview which Posey gave to NBC during the investigation of the disappearance of the 3 civil rights workers. In January of '65, Rainey and 17 others were indicted for the murders of the 3 men. They were indicted on federal charges, and because there was no federal murder statute at that time, they were charged with violation of the 3 men's civil rights. Rainey was acquitted at that trial, but 6 others were convicted. Rainey was definitely stigmatized by his role in the Freedom Summer events. His law enforcement career ended in 1968 when he lost his bid for re-election as sheriff. Rainey and his wife later divorced, and a while later he married his second wife. Apparently he had difficulty finding work. He worked as an auto mechanic and as a security guard at a hospital and a mall. He once had a job in a grocery store that ended after the airing of a CBS drama called Attack on Terror, the FBI versus the KKK. Bomb threats were made against the supermarket for him being an employee there, so they fired him. Rainey's boss at the security guard service was an African American, and he described the firm as better to work for than any white company. He would blame the FBI and the media for preventing him from finding and, of course, keeping jobs, and would constantly tell that he was not racist. Lawrence Rainey developed tongue and throat cancer, and he died at his home in Meridian, Mississippi in 2002. He was 79 years old.